Welcome to the Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas, your AI research lead, always scanning the horizon for what's next.
And I'm Aiva. Together, we keep you sharp, informed, and ahead of the curve.
Let's get into it. All right, this is huge. OpenAI just dropped GPT-5.5 Instant and is rolling out to every ChatGPT user over the next 2 days. We're talking about what could be the biggest model update since GPT-4 launched, and it's happening right now as we speak.
And that's not even the only major announcement today. Anthropic just released some fascinating research on something called model spec mid-training that could fundamentally change how we align AI systems. Plus, Claude just launched ready-to-run agent templates for financial services. It's like Christmas morning for AI nerds.
I'm Tomas, and this is the Semper AI Digest for Wednesday, May 6th, 2026.
And I'm Aiva. We've got a packed show today, so let's dive right into this GPT 5.5 instant rollout, because honestly, this caught me completely off guard.
Same here. So here's what's happening. OpenAI announced that GPT 5.5 Instant is becoming the default model for all ChatGPT users over the next 48 hours. Not just Plus subscribers, not just Pro users, everyone. And for developers, it's available as GPT 5.5-chat-latest in the API.
The timing is interesting here. We've been hearing whispers about GPT 5.5 for months, but most people expected it to launch as a premium tier first, right? The fact that they're making this the default experience for free users is a pretty bold move.
It really is. And think about what this means from a competitive standpoint. If you're Google or Anthropic, you just woke up to find that millions of casual AI users are now interacting with what's potentially a significantly more capable model. The bar just got raised overnight.
So what exactly are the improvements? Because 5.5 suggests this isn't just a minor update.
The big headline is factual accuracy. OpenAI specifically called out improvements in medicine, law, and finance, which are exactly the domains where hallucinations have been the biggest barrier to professional adoption. They're basically saying, we've made this reliable enough for high-stakes use cases.
That's huge if it's true. I mean, we've all had those moments where ChatGPT confidently gives you the wrong legal precedent or misses a crucial medical detail. If they've actually solved that?
Right. And it's not just the specialized domains. They're also claiming improvements in everyday tasks, analyzing images, STEM questions, knowing when to trigger web search. It sounds like they've done a comprehensive upgrade across the board.
The web search integration is particularly interesting. One of the frustrations with current ChatGPT is that it sometimes tries to answer from its training data when it should really just search for current information. If 5.5 Instant is better at recognizing those moments?
Exactly. It's like having a research assistant who actually knows when they need to go look something up versus when they can answer from memory. That's a huge usability improvement.
Now, I have to ask, and I know this sounds cynical, but we've heard claims about factual improvements before. How do we actually verify this? Are there any independent benchmarks yet?
That's totally fair to ask. OpenAI hasn't released detailed benchmarks yet, and given that this is rolling out as we speak, it'll probably take a few days for the AI evaluation community to really put it through its paces. But the fact that they're confident enough to make it the default suggests they've done extensive internal testing.
True. And honestly, we'll know pretty quickly if the factual improvements are real. The medical and legal communities are not shy about calling out AI mistakes.
Speaking of rollouts, there's also some interesting personalization features coming. Plus and Pro users are getting improved personalization on web starting now, with mobile following soon. Any thoughts on what that might look like?
Well, OpenAI has been building out their memory features, and actually, this ties into another part of the announcement. Memory sources are rolling out across all ChatGPT consumer plans on web, with mobile coming soon.
Oh, that's right. Memory sources is a big deal. For folks who haven't been following this, it's essentially ChatGPT being able to remember details about you and your preferences across conversations, but now with better attribution and transparency about where those memories came from.
Right, and the fact that it's going to all consumer plans, not just paid tiers, is another sign that OpenAI is really trying to make this a mass market experience rather than keeping the good stuff behind paywalls.
It makes me wonder about their business model evolution. Are they betting that better free features will drive more API usage, or are they planning to monetize in other ways?
Could be both. If GPT 5.5 Instant really is more accurate and useful, more businesses might integrate it into their workflows via the API, and better personalization could increase user engagement, which has its own value.
That's a good point. All right, let's shift gears because Anthropic had a pretty major day too. They published some fascinating research on something called model spec mid-training, or MSM. And honestly, this might be one of the most important alignment papers I've read all year.
Okay, break this down for me. What exactly is model spec mid-training?
So you know how AI alignment typically works, right? You train a model on examples of desired behavior, like here's a good response, here's a bad response, learn the pattern. But the problem is that this approach often fails to generalize to new situations the model hasn't seen before.
Right, it's like teaching someone to drive by just showing them examples of good driving, but never actually explaining the rules of the road.
That's actually a perfect analogy. So MSM adds a new training phase where you explicitly teach the AI about its constitution or spec, the actual rules and principles it should follow. Instead of just learning from examples, the model learns the underlying reasoning.
That sounds almost obvious when you put it that way. Why hasn't this been done before?
Well, it has been tried in various forms, but Anthropic's research shows some pretty dramatic improvements in how well this approach generalizes. They give this great example. AIs trained to be harmless chatbots can still take unsafe actions when they're deployed as agents in new environments. But if you use MSM first, it drastically reduces those unsafe agentic actions.
Oh, that's a really important distinction. We're moving toward AI agents that can take actions in the real world, not just chat. So alignment that works for chatbots but fails for agents is a huge problem.
Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. Anthropic found that just specifying rules works to some extent, but explaining the values underlying those rules works even better. It's not enough to say, don't be harmful. You need to explain why we care about avoiding harm in the first place.
That makes sense from a philosophical standpoint. If an AI understands the reasoning behind a rule, it's more likely to apply that reasoning to novel situations.
Right. And they can use this technique to empirically study which constitutions or specs actually work best. Instead of just theorizing about AI alignment, they can test different approaches and see which ones generalize most effectively.
This feels like it could be a breakthrough for AI safety. How quickly do you think we'll see this implemented in production systems?
Well, funny you should ask, because Anthropic also announced something today that might be related. They launched ready-to-run Claude agent templates for financial services, things like building pitches, conducting valuation reviews, closing the books at month end.
Wait, hold on. These are actual production agent templates, not just demos?
Yep, they're available as plugins in Cowork and Claude Code, or you can run them in production as managed agents using their cookbooks. This is Anthropic saying, we're confident enough in our agent capabilities to ship them for high-stakes financial work.
That's a big deal. Financial services is one of the most regulated, risk-averse industries out there. If Anthropic is comfortable offering production-ready agents for that sector, it suggests they're really confident in their alignment and safety work.
And it ties back to the MSM research, right? If they've developed better ways to ensure agents generalize their training to new situations safely, that would explain why they're confident deploying them in financial contexts.
True. Although I have to wonder about liability here. If a Claude agent makes a mistake in a valuation review or financial analysis, who's responsible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I imagine Anthropic has some pretty detailed terms of service around this, but you're right that the liability landscape for AI agents is still being figured out.
Still, the fact that they're shipping this suggests there's real demand. Financial firms must be seeing enough value to justify the risks.
And according to the announcement, each agent ships with the connectors, skills, and sub-agents the task needs, ready to use as is or adapt to your firm's standards. So it's not just a generic AI assistant. These are purpose-built tools for specific financial workflows.
Sub-agents is an interesting detail. That suggests these aren't just single AI models, but orchestrated systems where different specialized agents handle different parts of a complex task.
Exactly. Like for a valuation review, you might have one sub-agent that specializes in data gathering, another that handles financial modeling, and a third that focuses on market comparisons, each one optimized for its specific role.
Which brings us back to the alignment question. If you've got multiple agents working together, the alignment challenge becomes even more complex. You need to ensure not just that each agent behaves correctly, but that their interactions don't create unexpected behaviors.
Right, and that's probably where the MSM research becomes really crucial. If each sub-agent understands the underlying values and principles, not just rules, they're more likely to work together effectively, even in novel combinations.
This feels like we're witnessing the early stages of a pretty major shift. AI is moving from helpful assistant to autonomous colleague, and that has huge implications for how we think about work, liability, and human-AI collaboration.
Absolutely. And speaking of shifts, let's talk about some of the other developments from today, because there were quite a few interesting pieces to this MSM research that we haven't covered yet.
Right. Let's dive into some of the technical details, because I think this research is going to be really influential.
So, one of the key findings was about how standard alignment methods train AIs on examples of desired behavior, but this can fail to generalize to new situations. The MSM approach addresses this by explicitly teaching the AI about its intended behavior specification during training.
And they found that just giving the AI access to its constitution isn't enough. You need a dedicated training phase where the model actually learns to understand and apply those principles.
Exactly. It's like the difference between giving someone a rule book and actually teaching them how to think about the principles behind the rules. The latter gives you much better generalization.
What I found particularly interesting was their point about studying which model specs yield the best generalization. This gives us a way to empirically test different approaches to AI alignment, instead of just debating them philosophically.
That's huge for the field. We can actually run experiments to see whether certain types of constitutional AI approaches work better than others. It takes alignment research from theoretical to empirical.
And the implications extend beyond just safety, right? Better alignment probably means more useful AI systems overall, because they're better at understanding what humans actually want.
Absolutely. Misalignment isn't just about catastrophic risks. It's also about AI systems that are frustrating to use because they don't quite get what you're asking for.
All right, let's shift into some quick hits, because there were a bunch of smaller but still interesting developments today.
Good idea. So we mentioned the MSM research, but it's worth noting that this came out of Anthropic's Fellows Program. For those who don't know, that's their initiative to bring in external researchers to work on AI safety problems.
Right. And the fact that they're publishing this research openly is a good sign for the field. AI safety benefits when research is shared rather than hoarded.
Another quick note on the GPT 5.5 instant rollout. OpenAI specifically mentioned improvements in image analysis as part of the everyday task improvements. Given how much visual AI has been advancing, that could be a pretty significant upgrade for people using ChatGPT for visual tasks.
And the STEM question improvements are interesting too. Education is one of the biggest use cases for ChatGPT, so better accuracy in math and science could have real impact for students and teachers.
Speaking of education, the broader availability of memory features could be huge for personalized learning. Imagine an AI tutor that actually remembers your learning style, what concepts you struggle with, and what explanations work best for you.
That's exciting, but it also raises privacy questions. How much should an AI remember about users, and how do we ensure that data is protected?
Fair point. Though OpenAI has been pretty transparent about giving users control over their memory settings, and with memory sources becoming more visible, users should have better insight into what the AI remembers and why.
True. Transparency is key here. All right, any final thoughts on today's developments?
I keep coming back to how much is happening simultaneously. We've got major model improvements from OpenAI, breakthrough alignment research from Anthropic, and production-ready AI agents for financial services. It feels like we're in one of those periods where multiple trends are converging.
And the pace is incredible. GPT 5.5 Instant is rolling out over just 2 days. Model spec mid-training research gets published, and we immediately see what might be applications of it in Claude's financial agents. Everything is moving so fast.
It makes me wonder what the AI landscape will look like 6 months from now. If this is the pace of change in early 2026, where do we end up by the end of the year?
Well, one thing seems clear. The gap between research and application is shrinking rapidly. We're not just talking about what might be possible someday. We're talking about what's shipping this week.
Exactly. And for anyone building with AI, whether that's developers integrating these APIs or businesses thinking about AI strategy, the message is clear. The capabilities are advancing fast, and the deployment is even faster.
Which brings us to our usual reminder. If you're finding value in these deep dives into the AI space, make sure to subscribe to Semper AI Digest. We're here every episode to help you make sense of what's happening and why it matters.
And share this with anyone who's trying to keep up with AI developments. Whether they're technical folks who need the details or business leaders who need the context, we try to make this accessible for everyone.
Absolutely. The AI space moves fast, but you don't have to navigate it alone. We're here to help you stay informed and think critically about these developments.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been another episode of Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. We'll catch you next time with more AI news, analysis, and the occasional heated debate about whether we're moving too fast or not fast enough.
Spoiler alert, we're probably moving too fast and not fast enough at the same time. It's complicated.
That's AI in 2026 for you. Until next time.